Coach, when I did walk in, I noticed, you had your whiteboard configuration on the board, and your objectives were clearly stated for the day. Kind of take us through. I know you were doing radicals. Kind of just give me an overview of what you thought the lesson was, and if it was successful in the class for that day.
Okay. Well, teaching radicals, the first thing is they got to understand what a radical is and how it is inside the radical and how you get it out of the radical.
Yeah.
So I give them a graphic organizer that has all the powers of 2, all the powers of 3, all the powers of 4. It's kind of like a little cheat sheet they get to use. And so, for example, the square root of 36, we know to get 36, you can use 6 times 6, and that means that the two, you have to have 2 numbers of the same number to be able to get out of the house, and that's the goal of solving radicals, is to get out of the house, out from under the house.
Yeah.
And so I use the cheat sheet with them because it's kind of hard for them to remember what powers of 2 and powers of 3, and understand that 2 times a number, that same number, or 3 times that same number, to get out of the house.
Right.
And, it's just kind of hard for them to remember. It's easy for them if it's a perfect square.
Right.
So if it's 36 or 81,
Mm-hmm.
They know those. But when
Yeah.
it's 45, and you got to pick 2 numbers,
Mm-hmm.
One's got to be a perfect square, the 9, and then times 5 will give you 45.
Right.
So they have to understand that the 9 can come out of the house, but the 5 has to stay in.
Right.
So it's kind of hard for them to comprehend that. It's, when it gets to simplifying the ones that aren't perfect squares or perfect cubes.
Right.
So
Did you feel like that the kids understood the concept and the goal of the day before as you're introducing the lesson? I mean, do you feel like that's a problem, or do you feel like it's mainly just trying to find new strategies to reach the kids?
I think they understand, but I think that their level of understanding basic concepts of math, they kind of didn't get coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we struggle.
Right.
Like I said, the 2 kids that are in there that are at a higher level, they pick it up, real easy, and they're ready to move on. But it's just those lower level kids.
Yeah. And at the beginning, like we were talking, you had the whole group instruction,
Mm-hmm.
and then you went to pairs.
Mm-hmm.
When you went to pairs, did you find that there was a need for those sheets, or do you think those kids are dependent on their peers more, or how do you feel the pair and differentiated learning kind of works in your classroom during that activity?
Well, I paired them up. I tried to equally pair them so that the one doesn't just sit there and copy the smarter kids' lessons. So
Mm-hmm.
I put the 2 smart kids together, and then so they could feed off each other. And then I paired everybody else up kind of with their even peers, so that they had to think and possibly could talk to each other about it, so that one wasn't doing all the work and the other one just sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll get that if you put one that's really high and one that's really low. Sometimes,
Right.
the lower kid is just going to sit there and copy, and he won't have any input because the smarter kid's just going to do it all.
When you, one thing I noticed is, like, when you start calling them up to the board to work on the problems, how do you keep kids from being embarrassed? I mean, I noticed that you were kind of prompting them through questions,
Mm-hmm.
which is another differentiation learning strategy. Kind of tell me about how you do that without giving them the answers, but also not embarrassing them.
Right. Well, they'll say, "I don't want to come up the word." I say, "Yeah, come on, let's start it, and then if you get to a point where you don't know what you're doing, then I'll help you." So they'll come up and they'll start the problem, and then if I see they're going astray, I'll go, "All right, wait now. Let's think about what you just wrote,
Mm-hmm.
or let's think about the problem in general." And they'll stop and they'll go, and they'll think about it, and a lot of times it's just that they don't want to come up to the board. It's not that they don't know how.
Right.
So, you know, I don't put them in a situation where I think it's going to embarrass them, but I do want to be able to, you know, see what they know and what they can do. And once they get up there and I start helping them with it, then they're pretty calm about it and go through with it. So,
You know, we're targeting those 4 students that you were saying that are, you know, under 70 right now. And, you know, like we said, a lot of times it's their apathy in the class and those things. How do you keep those kids focused? What's your, I mean, you know, like, because I know most of them are probably embarrassed to come to the board, but it didn't look like it.
No, I mean,
so tell me how you kind of prompt them through it.
I usually just coach them through. I mean, just that basic. Come on, all right, what's your first step? And they'll look at me, and I'll go, you need to add 12, right? And they'll go, oh yeah, you know. So you kind of just give them the answer, but they feel like they're doing it, sort of thing.
Right.
So I'm not sure.